Tonight's guest started wrestling on television in the year 2000 for syndicated cult classic show Urban Wrestling Alliance. He wrestled as Marcus Jordan. He continued to wrestle, but also he worked as a stuntman, actor, filmmaker. Please, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Pro Wrestling Potluck, Marcus Nell Jamal Ham. How's it going?
Hey, how's everybody doing? Doing great, man.
Thanks for doing it. Thanks for coming on the show. I appreciate it.
No problem at all, man. It was an honor.
How are things in Los Angeles right now?
It's raining, man, but anywhere else in the world, this would be considered a spring day. But everybody out here is freaking out
because there's a little bit of weather. It's not perfect today.
There you go. We have one imperfect day.
Yeah. So I don't know if you know about this show, but we watch like a mix every week of different wrestling. And a few months ago, a contributor to the show sent in every Urban Wrestling Alliance match that is on YouTube. About
Awesome.
10 matches. Watched a couple of yours, and so I watched some UWA as a teenager, but now I'm a fiend for it, and I'm trying to find out more, trying to get more information. So now that led me to reach out to you. And so I just want to know how you got into the Urban Wrestling Alliance, how you got started.
All right, well, I actually from Maryland, and I trained at the famous Bone Breakers Wrestling Training Center out there in Maryland, run by Dan McDevitt, and the late bruiser R.J. Meyer, Keenan Creed, and I joined there back in '99. I was about a year into training. I trained.
Oh wow!
I actually had an injury that kept me out for a little bit, a wrist injury. So I was just at the end of my training and just started working the indie circuit.
Mm-hmm.
And I was teamed up with Orlando Jordan, who had come in about halfway around the time that I had been training. So when I was actually out when he started training. And when I came back, I remember someone was like, "Hey, Marcus, have you seen the bigger version of you?" Like, no, I have not. And I met him.
Nice, bigger version. That's very sweet of them.
Yeah, it was really nice of him. But what's funny is that his last name being Jordan is that it was always my intention to wrestle as Marcus Jordan.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because I was one of the first kids in high school to shave their head bald, and I walked past this preschool, walking to high school, and kids used to come running thinking I was Michael Jordan.
Hey, good way to make a few extra bucks.
Yeah, right? So, yeah, it was always kind of in the back of my mind as when I decided to be a wrestler that I wanted to be Marcus Jordan. So I thought it was, pretty interesting that he showed up, and the company are the ones who made the call. They said, it only made sense. It's actually Joey Mercury.
Oh, yeah.
He went by Joey Matthews at the time, but he was the one who basically said, "Look, guys, it doesn't make any sense not to put you two together." So we started out pretty much as a tag team, and he was the Policy, and I was the Black Dragon.
Awesome, the Black Dragon.
Yeah, that was my original character before I went to UWA. And just so happened UWA was coming around, and they held tryouts. So we went to a local tryout, and we actually wrestled as the bad guys. And we had the Ghetto Mafia, who became the Street Soldiers.
Oh, yeah.
Dope and Sideswipe. They usually always play the bad guys, but we had them play the good guys. And it was the first time for both of us to work as heels and baby faces.
Yeah.
Yeah, separate, swapped it out. So we did our tryout, and it didn't take, I don't even think it took a week before we got the call.
Wow, that's great. After a year of training, and you're getting on television. Do you remember seeing anybody else like in the tryouts? Any like other names that didn't make it, or anybody?
As far as like name guys, at our tryout, I mean, everybody that I remember were pretty much at that same kind of, like, obviously more veteran, but the local talent. And I know a lot of the talent that they did end up picking up were mostly from out here in California.
Yeah.
But this was the same time frame that John Cena was the prototype. You know, you had that group out there.
Did you ever cross paths with the prototype?
I did. Actually, I meant to send. I sent you a few pictures. I actually meant to send a photo that we took together. But that was actually years later that I got to meet him. I didn't meet him, but we did. Me and him. The place that we trained at in California was the same promotion that they were running with Rick Bassman.
Oh yeah.
So we had some interesting times out here when we started training, because they treated UWA like a TV show rather than a wrestling show.
That's what I was wondering, because you work in wrestling. You also have moved into television and film. Does, like, the backstage of Urban Wrestling Alliance, was it more like a wrestling backstage, or was it more like a television backstage? Like, how did people act there? Did they act like it was a wrestling show, or did they act like it was a TV show?
There was a learning curve.
Mm-hmm.
And the good news was, when we first were flown out there, we spent several months training. So the learning curve came from our head trainer was Mike Modest.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, you remember from Beyond the Mat. And, he had a lot of input on what was working, what wasn't. Because they had agents who were from the Hollywood side of things, and those guys, they basically wanted us training as if we were stuntmen. So yeah, as I'm sure you know as a fan, that wrestlers, we call it in the ring, we walk through our matches, we talk it out, and we just go out there to do it. We would have a show that wasn't going to air for weeks, and they would want us to come in 5 days a week, 8 hours a day, and keep running the same match over and over again.
Like it's a play.
Yeah. And I was like, look, we got it. You know, if you want to make any adjustments, that's fine, but I do not need to bump this many times for a single match.
Wild.
Yeah, and there was also this interesting hybrid in who they brought in as talent, because a few of the talent that they brought in were actors that didn't have wrestling experience, and a lot of us were workers.
And now you probably didn't appreciate the actor types coming in at that point.
No, just because we knew how much it took to get there, and it was kind of insulting a little bit to have someone who didn't have any wrestling, and it was also a threat, a risk to us, not a threat, but a risk, because we obviously are putting our bodies on the line when we perform. So, us knowing internally that if this guy has no idea what he's doing, we're going to go out on TV and this guy's going to breaking someone's neck.
He's not going to look out for your safety.
Yeah, so we did some ribs, and I was actually kind of the class clown back then.
Do you remember any good Urban Wrestling Alliance ribs that happened?
Oh, well, there was a particular guy, and if he's watching this, he's gonna probably be like, God darn it. But his wrestling name was Surge.
Okay, yeah.
And he was one of the guys that didn't have a wrestling background. And he had a very distinct voice, like, hey guys, I'm Surge. And I did a pretty good impression of him. So I remember we were all in a van going somewhere, and I called Mike Modest on the phone, put him on speakerphone, and pretended like I was Surge. And I was like, hey, you know what, man, these guys are really getting to me, man. I don't think I can keep this going. Mike was, he's like, oh man, you just gotta, it's just part of the business, man. You just gotta suck it up. And
that's great.
I just kind of got more and more intimate about what I was saying, to the point that Mike was like, wait a minute. Who is this?
Hey, this isn't Surge. Now, what about Flatline? Was Flatline a wrestler, or was he an actor?
Flatline was a wrestler, yeah. He is a wrestler. Clarence Clean. He's my buddy, man. He wrestled out of New York. And it's killing me. His trainer is very well known, and I'm really sorry that his name isn't coming to mind, but I will say that Clarence, he came from a legit background. He had a great training. He was 7 foot tall.
Yeah,
you
he
know,
made good
he was
faces. He made good
Yeah,
faces. That's
yeah.
that's something we saw when we watched the matches on the show.
hmm Yeah, I actually had when I moved on from that show, and I can kind of get more into this later, but I tried to revitalize the idea of urban wrestling within my own concept. And
Oh,
Clarence was actually going to play my uncle. I had this whole concept in mind where I was kind of a Russell Simmons kind of character, and Clarence was more like a Suge Knight.
I like
And we
that.
were like battling over a promotion where he would bring in his guys who were mostly from the streets,
Mm-hmm.
and I would bring in my guys who were all, you know, kind of like the athletic,
Yeah, more
you know,
polished.
guys. Yeah.
What happened with that?
So this is a crazy funny story. I mean, funny now. It wasn't funny back then. So I did develop this idea. It was called Urban Empire Wrestling, and I shot a pilot episode at the legendary Blue Horizon. It was a boxing venue out in Philadelphia. It was famous. It was known for because of Rocky V. I guess they shot Rocky V out of there. It was also, I think, one of the only black-owned boxing venues.
Oh, nice.
Remember Ty Cobb was there when I went to sign the paperwork. It was really cool. And so we shot the pilot, and I really wanted to run a promotion more like a league, you know. I don't believe in jobbers, you know. I don't as someone with a kind of mindset of an athlete. My mindset is if I'm running a wrestling promotion, everybody in the promotion wants to be the champion and has the potential. So I like the concept of having a more combative, almost basically UFC style, meaning like it's tournament based. Everyone that wrestles are, you know, getting ranked, and then it gets down to a 4-way match, and then it was a last man standing. It was a standing 10 count rules main event where a four-man match.
I like that.
So that concept, you know, it's funny. I had a lot of problems doing that show with the athletic commission. They seemed to have a real big problem with me doing it, and they actually told me I wasn't allowed to even show the banners or anything. So
Why is that?
Honestly, you know, I mean, a lot of people can have a lot of different opinions. Just to be frank, I think there was a racial element to it.
Yeah.
I think that just hearing the name Urban concerned them. I mean, Philadelphia was a heavy wrestling town. And basically, I partnered with Mike Quackenbush.
Oh yeah.
Who was a good friend of mine, and he had a license. I didn't have a license, so we worked together to promote the show. And his group, Chikara Pro, actually opened the show. His company was called 5 Star Entertainment, but they called me and told me that you're only allowed to run a show under the name of your company.
Oh.
And I said, well, they don't even run by 5 Star Promotions.
Yeah.
That's just the name of their business. I said, it looks like you're just like dusting out, you know, an old rule book.
Yeah, they're just trying to see what hoops they can put out there and obstacles.
They told me if I showed any signage or even uttered the name Urban Empire Wrestling, they would shut me down. And they sent a gentleman by the name of Frank Talent to the show specifically for that reason.
Wow.
He was there just to shut us down if he saw or heard the name Urban Empire Wrestling. Now here's the beautiful turnout of that is that there was a lot of challenges to the show. We didn't get the audience we wanted because we were running on the weekend, and it was school wasn't in at the time, so we didn't get the audience we were hoping for.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a pilot. You know, it was more about just producing cinematography, shooting it well. Everybody came out and they did their thing. Had Sonny Siaki, had Dude Hope and Keenan Creed, Julio De Niro, and the late Xavier, X-Man. He was incredible. Sanjay Dutt, he was there. He was incredible. I mean, everybody put on like top.
Yeah, that's a talented roster.
Yeah, everyone did great. And I didn't wrestle that night. I was more just, you know, I was on the director's side, the producer. This was actually my first time as a producer, 2003. So we did the show, and at the end of the show, Frank Talent, I was in the ring, you know, we were rewarding Keenan Creed, who won the championship, and he beat Sonny Siaki. And Frank Talon just walks in the ring and he takes the microphone from me. And he says to the audience that this is the best show that he's seen in over 25 years.
Wow.
And he basically announced, tell your friends to watch Urban Empire Wrestling. And he requested that we bring the rolled up banner into the ring. And we rolled it out and held it up together. And, you know,
Wow,
he basically
so
was like,
his mind was
we were wrong.
changed.
Mine was changed. Yeah, it was bittersweet, but it was great to see that reaction to the work that we put in.
Yeah.
I'm assuming they were thinking it was going to be more along the lines of that other show that ended up coming out a little bit later on MTV that had like the guns and
with Wrestling Society X.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
We've watched some of that on this show as well. We cover it all here.
That's
so
awesome.
so how much so once the Urban Wrestling Alliance was over, you still wrestled. Where did you wrestle after that?
Immediately after that, I just went back to Maryland and continued wrestling for Maryland Championship Wrestling. And it's funny that like bringing Joey Mercury back up again. At that point, Orlando had moved to Florida and started training with Rocky Johnson to get, you know, his way into WWE. I actually also got that opportunity presented to me, but to be honest with you, the offer to me was more along the lines of you'll be a B talent.
Oh, they wanted to bring in to do jobs
overseas.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like and they said, you know, size. You know, they're like, hey, you know, you're not the biggest guy. WWE has a lot of guys on the roster, so it's just less likely. And honestly, when I look back, I think to myself, you know, I should have just proved them wrong, like I already had proven people wrong, because I was getting that kind of stuff before I got to UWA. So, but
I'm glad that's changed though. That the size stuff has changed in the past 20 years drastically.
Absolutely.
I think promoters kind of know that there's stars of all sizes.
Exactly. Yeah. And even back then, I mean, we already had Rey Mysterio. We had even Christian from Edge and Christian. There are a lot of guys that I felt, you know, size-wise, I was pretty much in the same range as, if not bigger. So it was always there. It's just, it was like much smaller chances if you were a smaller guy. So I did go back to Maryland Wrestling, and Joey, he actually introduced the idea of me becoming the supermodel. So this was when my most, I ran with that character more than any other. Supermodel was I conceptualized because I did come back with that Hollywood attitude.
Yeah.
They saw my headshots and stuff, and they're like just thinking that, hey, you should be the supermodel.
Yeah, you can talk the talk now. You went to Tinseltown.
Yeah, and it went over really well. I mean, the audiences loved it. Even when I moved out here to LA, I went from Maryland Wrestling to Knox Pro, which is run by Rikishi, you know, WWE Hall
of
Famer.
I have a picture. I'll put that picture up right now.
Yeah. So they immediately.
There you go.
I mean, I was kind of trying to go back to being the Black Dragon, and I came in and worked a show as the supermodel, and they were just like, hey, Oos, you're the supermodel. You stay the supermodel. And they just loved it. Miro, you know, he's told me several times that I was one of his favorite wrestlers.
Oh wow.
Which I consider the greatest honor of all. But he said that even it's been a while now, but there was a guy in WWE a few years ago who kind of took a similar gimmick. And I mean, the gimmick has been done a billion times, but there was a guy that recently
Tyler Breeze.
I think, yep, that's him.
He had a model
Miro
gimmick.
would be like, yeah, he's like, he ain't got nothing on you. I appreciate that, brother.
Well, speaking of favorites, what's like a favorite match of yours, or a match that you think we should watch on the show in the coming weeks that I could dig up of yours from anywhere?
Oh well.
Favorite
you
opponent?
Mean UWA?
No, just anything you've done. We've watched all the UWA that there is on YouTube, so if there's anything else.
A lot of the stuff I did with Knox Pro isn't online, unfortunately. I definitely have a match, and what's funny about the match that I'm thinking about is that I'm actually producing a film with the same wrestler because of the fact, in part, because of the fact that we don't have the footage. We're gonna fight as Blade and Wolverine.
Oh yeah, I saw that you're into the like the comic films. You're making like
Yeah.
what they're not called fan films. What are they called when
Fan
you
film.
fan films?
That's what
Okay.
they're called. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
so
awesome.
His name is Fernando Marrero. He wrestled as the PBA, and he had a mixed martial arts background. He and I had a great match back up with Knox Pro a couple years ago. I mean, we pulled out all stops, and we just we didn't get to see the match.
Oh, I hate that.
So yeah, we're gonna make up for it by fighting on screen.
That's awesome.
But I honestly, aside from that match, I always got a reference back to the Grudge, the match that I had in UWA against me and Orlando versus the Street Soldiers.
That was one of the first matches we watched.
When I got my girlfriend back, that fight was like, I mean, I still remember the energy we had coming out because we had our first match that we had against each other. We kind of gassed out at the end. So when we were having like just kind of the pull apart, we were getting reamed out in the back to saying, "Hey guys, you could tell you guys were blown up," and we just we're not going to have that. So when we had our comeback, big fight at the end. I mean, all those punches were real. we came out on fire, and I mean the match just went perfectly. I mean every move was just smooth. And even our costumes, there was this big thing about our costumes when we were in UWA because the costume designers who, God bless them, we would give them ideas, they would draw them up, and when they presented them to us, we were just like, this is not what I said. And a lot of us felt that way. So, oh gosh. Orlando actually called me from a fetish shop. And he was like,
here we go. This is going to be a good story.
He was like, hey, come and meet me over at this address. And this shop, had all leather, what's it called? That material that they use for like the gimp mask.
Oh, like vinyl? Is it vinyl? Yeah.
Yeah, vinyl. So we actually paid to get our own gimmicks made at that shop. And
they'll do it right.
Yeah, I mean, we basically looked like superheroes after that. Like we went from just kind of wearing these baggy, kind of plain looking outfits to like now just having this flashy, wrestling attire. So we came out, that was like the first time you saw us in our proper gear. So it's like we came out hot, we were in the right gear, even though one of the commentators kept making fun of my gimmick.
Was it the color commentator?
Cross.
Yeah, Rough Rider. Cross.
From the Rough Riders. Yeah. He loved bagging on me. I loved it though. I mean, that's what the audience enjoys. It's like he's because I had the whole storyline with the girlfriend, and he would always be egging that on and complaining about me being too distracted. And it really helped to push the character and make the audience see me as the bad guy because that's what I was ultimately turning into.
Yeah. Do you prefer working as a heel?
I do.
It seems more fun.
It's more fun. It's actually easier, and I'm sure I know there's several guys that say that. When I say easier on the body, not easier as a job, because I mean it's tough to get people to hate you.
Yeah.
But
I have no problem getting people to hate me.
But when you're the heel, you pretty much give the heat in most of your matches. So the baby face is usually taking the bulk of the bumps.
Yeah. Until the end.
Yeah, until the end. So, but I enjoy it not just for that reason. I enjoy just being a character that stands out.
Yeah.
I mean, I personally would love, like, when you talk about Stone Cold, The Rock, all the top baby faces out there. That to me, like, I'm one of those people that only wants to be at the top. So if I'm going to be a baby face, I would want to be a baby face that when he walks out of the arena, everyone loses their stuff. And
yeah.
That to me is the ultimate prize as a pro wrestler.
Oh, I just got a Zoom pop-up. Okay. Sorry about that. Well,
way.
going back to the superhero fan films, what heroes and or villains have you played?
So I've done two. My second one is out now in the festival circuit. My first one, I did it back in 2020. It's called the Black League of Superheroes, and this was kind of it kind of made up for how 2020 was. We were all sitting at home.
Yeah.
I was in the cosplay. I used to go to the comic conventions. I had all these costumes. And now that I was doing films, I sat down with the cinematographer and said, "Hey, could you shoot me as different characters?" And he said, "Yeah." So I said, "Okay, well, I'm Blade, I'm Black Panther, I'm Spawn,
Awesome.
and Miles Morales, Spider-Man, and I'm also going to be Superman."
Oh, hell yeah.
And it's like one thing about fan films other people that do fan films, they're so worried about trying to emulate others' things.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like they're trying to stay in this one universe. It's like fan films, you can't monetize them. It's all for the fun of it. It's all for the love of it. So why give yourself limitations? Do something that no one else has ever seen. So I had a story that basically had Miles Morales get his hands on the Infinity Gauntlet. And his dad was a cop in the animated and in the comic book. So this is a social justice kind of story. His dad was killed by other cops when he was trying to intervene with a kid that was being assaulted, and Miles Morales couldn't do anything about it without giving away who he was. So he manages to get his hands on the gauntlet, and he snaps in Blade, Black Panther, Superman, and Spawn from different universes because they're basically his elders.
Yeah.
And he's seeking the wisdom of his elders. And they don't know what they're there for at first. And Superman's the only one that's running late because this is a new character. It's not, obviously not Clark Kent Superman. But he's also not Val Zod or any other comic rendition. He's a self-made version of him.
I like that.
But he lives in the universe that they're in. So he's the only one that's traveling there directly instead of having been snapped into the room. So Blade is kind of a comic relief. Blade is he's inspired by Eddie Murphy because that whole concept is from Nutty Professor.
Yeah.
So my Blade is actually like very funny. He talks a lot of smack, of course, and him and Spawn do not get along. And it's hilarious. And Black Panther is basically the one just like, let's just be cool, everybody. Let's just get through. So when Superman shows up, he even makes a jibe at him saying, "Hey, you're not Superman. Superman's white." And they just have this, interesting dynamic where they all come from a different place. So when Miles Morales reveals to them why he brought them there, it turns around to where, surprisingly, Black Panther turns into the one that says, "Okay, let's do it." Because he wants to take out all the bad people. And it takes Blade, who now went from comic relief to like, "No, this ain't happening." So it's just a beautiful little story.
So where could we watch this? Is it on YouTube?
You can actually,
I
have it on YouTube.
Oh, great.
And the easiest way to find it is just to go to a website by the name of the movie. It's called www.blackleagueofsuperheroes.com.
Black League of Superheroes. Awesome. Thank you. And I did a little research. I saw that you wrestled as Miles Morales.
I did.
How was that?
Inspiration.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It was a lot of fun, man. That was actually the last time I was in the ring. That was in 2019 at the Long Beach Comic Con for Nox Pro. And they called me up and they said there was, obviously a comic theme. They knew I was into comics.
That's awesome. Yeah.
I actually brought costumes for a lot of the other wrestlers too. And I got to also wrestle that night as Blade as well. And all the matches were a lot of fun. And it did inspire me to end up eventually doing what I'm doing
now. Making the films. That's awesome. Yeah. I have, I'm not going to keep you for too much longer, but I did see when I was doing my research that you voiced a video game character.
I did.
For SmackDown versus Raw, you were created superstar number 2. That's awesome.
Yes, I was. Yeah.
That's great.
So it's awesome.
What's
great
that?
about being in Hollywood is that, wrestling is almost like being in a fraternity. So anytime you meet anyone who's from the business, we always kind of look out for each other. And his name is Justin Leeper. He was similar to me. He was a worker who got into the acting and stunts, and we were taking stunt classes together. and he also worked for THQ. So he hit me up and said, "Hey man, you want to do this voiceover for the
Awesome.
SmackDown?" I said, "Yes." It was awesome, man. It was a lot of fun. I still remember being in that studio and seeing all the clips of Vince McMahon and all the other guys, and getting to do the voice to respond.
Do you remember
to his
any
character.
of the things you had to say as the Created Wrestler 2 voice?
Yeah, I remember it was an interesting story mode. Nothing specific about what I said, but I just know that as the story went along, McMahon just kept getting more pissed off that I kept winning, and just making me go through more and more hoops.
That
to
sounds
try to
about
get me
right, yeah.
Disqualified. Yeah. But it was a lot of good fun smack talking.
Oh, that's great. Well, I'm gonna wrap this up. I don't want to keep you all night. Thank you so much for doing this. Now here's
problem.
the big question. There is no Urban Wrestling Alliance anywhere online except for those 10 matches. Do you have
Fortunately.
footage? Do they give you footage? Do you have the shows?
No, what's online is as best as we're gonna get.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I was probably the most aggressive in trying to get a hold of that, but unfortunately, when things kind of went to the wayside, the production company canned everything because they didn't get paid.
Yeah.
So all that footage was, I like to think somewhere out there somebody has it on a hard drive.
That's what
but
I am like seriously looking for it, because there's all kinds of people in the wrestling world that have every little fed everything, and somehow Urban Wrestling Alliance slips through, because I guess it is the TV element of it that people kind of miss the wrestling element of it. But I am on the hunt for it. So when I find it, and I will find it, I will send it all to you, because it is out there. It has to be out there in some form or fashion.
It has to be. Yeah, if you do find it, I would love to have like clean,
Yeah.
full episodes.
Yeah, that's my dream. That's what I'm trying to find, and if that happens, if and when that happens, we will I will let you know, and we'll probably have you back on for that.
Yeah, I'd love to. Yeah,
Well, thank you so
it'd be
much,
great.
Marcus, for doing this. Anything you want to plug before we let you go?
Yeah, so this poster behind me, this is a movie that I did called Heaven's Revenge, and let's scroll up a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
That's actually the same young lady that played my girlfriend in UWA.
Oh, wow.
Her name is Lanice Adams, and she ended up going on The Bachelor after UWA ended. She was on the first season of The Bachelor.
Wow.
Kind of got a little claim to fame from that, and then, similar to myself, she decided to become an actress years later, and she and I have been friends all these years, and we did this movie together. Where I actually play a professional wrestler. And it's a misery meets fatal attraction. So I'm a pro wrestler who meets her, and we wine and dine her and make her fall in love, and then I try to dump her, and she gets really upset, and she
Oh, no.
shoots me. And then she has me tied up in the house and wants me to pay for breaking her heart. It's a
Well,
great movie.
yeah.
It's on Amazon Prime.
Okay.
It was on Tubi. I think it's going to go on Tubi again, but right now you can watch it on Amazon Prime.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Marcus. I will be in touch when I find the footage.
Yes,
All right.
yes, please do.
Marcus, Nell,
All right, sir.
Jamal, Ham, thank you so much for coming on the show. Have a good night and
problem.
Happy New Year.
All right.
Yo,
too.
you
Take
got the
care, y'all.
UWA shirt?
That's
Yes.
right. Got the shirt.
Represent. All right. Good night.
Good night. Take care.